Hey there, Shavon Lindley here, CEO of Women Evolution and creator of the Forbes interview series, Rising Leaders. I am here today with Mikie Sherrill, candidate for U.S. Congress. If you want to take a peek at her interview live on Forbes right now, the link is right there for you to take a peek at if you haven't had a chance already. And after this interview, you're going to have an opportunity to ask your questions directly to Mikie, roughly around 72 hours after the Forbes article went live. So make sure that you like the Shavon Lindley page so that way you can be up to date on exactly when that live Q&A will happen. And you can post your comments below that we'll ask live, or you can join us live and ask them directly yourself. So just to give you some background on Mikie Sherrill, she's a Navy Academy graduate. She's a Navy pilot, or was a Navy pilot, a former federal prosecutor, and a mother of four who is currently running for Congress. So thank you so much for being here with me today and talking to me about your leadership journey. And you know, you obviously spent a lot of time early on in your career developing as a leader within the U.S. Navy. And so how was that different from some of the other places that you've worked in since then?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Certainly, so I think something that's really interesting about the Navy is that you can't simply go out onto the street on Craigslist and hire an admiral. You really have to grow those people from the ground up. So the pool of people that you are going to have to be admirals, you have to grow from ensigns. And to do that, you have to really invest in your people, and you have to invest in their leadership skills and their capabilities. And I often, when I was thinking about how I was going to manage people that were working for me and how I was going to be a leader and how I was going to teach people to lead, I often thought about a course I took at the Naval Academy in naval leadership. And the worst thing you can do in the Navy is to run a ship aground. And that means that, you know, you don't keep the ship in water that's deep enough for the ship to travel through, but it actually hits the ground or runs onto the beach.
That's not good.
No, that's a cardinal sin in the Navy. And so when that happens, there's a huge investigation. And what the investigations often show is that several people on the bridge of the ship, which is kind of the command center of the ship, several people on the bridge knew that the ship was going to run aground, and they didn't do anything. And a lot of times the reason they didn't do anything is because they hadn't been empowered to have a voice in that organization. So for example, when they had told the captain of the ship that he or she was wrong in the past, they'd been yelled at or ridiculed or, you know, demoted. So I always made sure, and I still make sure as a leader, that I'm empowering my people to give feedback. And I think that's so critical because a lot of times in an organization, you have various people on the ground operating various pieces of the organization. And it's so critical that those experts can get to leadership so leadership understands how the organization is functioning well or where areas where you need to work on. And that goes for almost any place you work. So I was also a federal prosecutor, and I needed to make sure that everybody working on trials with me was empowered to come forward if they thought, for example, my cross-examination needed work, or if there was a document I wasn't talking about in evidence, or if I hadn't considered all the evidence. And so I always really, I've really taken that to heart. And I think part of leadership is empowering people who are working for you to give critical feedback.
So what's been some of the things that you've just kind of throughout, if you think back, is there something that you've struggled with personally or that hasn't come as easy for you as you were growing and rising, you know, throughout your career? And did it hold you back at all?
Sure. You know, it's funny. I feel like it's almost a cliche to say, but I think self-promotion has been and still is, can be a difficulty for me. And I think that's true of so many women. And it's certainly, you know, I think we all need to realize that if you don't promote yourself, other people aren't necessarily going to do it. So I assumed for many years that if I just worked really hard and was the best person at my job, that would be noticed and people would, you know, come forward to me and say, oh, Mikie, you've done such a wonderful job. Here's your promotion. And you know, now you're managing this team. That's important. That's a very important piece of working in an organization. But it's also important to make sure that people are aware of how hard you're working and how how important the company is to you and how important your job is to you and how invested you are in it. And so, you know, I've definitely had to learn to go about promoting myself better. And I thought of a time, you know, just when I was a midshipman at the Naval Academy and I was on a ship and I was, I remember it's kind of funny to think back now, but we were catching fish and I was filleting fish, and then I was helping lead a team to clean up the ship after unfortunately the toilet had exploded. And I had helped save a woman's life aboard the ship when she passed out and wasn't breathing and her heart stopped beating a couple times, and all these different things that had gone into that cruise for me. And yet I would say that my ranking on the ship was very average, and even the captain of the ship said something about how, you know, he probably should have ranked me higher. And I think at the time I was like, oh, okay. Whereas now, of course, I would have gone forward and said something about it and said, were you aware that I have done these things? And is there some way that I could work harder? Or what do you suggest for the future? And I think nowadays, I do make sure that I'm, you know, I think it's important to bring people in the team. I think it's important to praise other people on the team for the work that they have done. I still find that to be a critical piece of working in a group, and I still value that. I think as well as doing that, it's important then when you see your boss to mention, hey, I really worked so hard on that presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that was what you were looking for. And just please let me know if you have any feedback. But you know, I'm so invested in this project, and you know, I've had such a wonderful experience working here. So please keep me informed if there's more that I can be doing, and keeping that dialogue going so that management knows what you're doing and is aware of the work you're putting in, and B, then you can receive feedback if for some reason there is something that you could work harder on.
It's just interesting to me because, I mean, obviously you're running for Congress, and so like you really need to make sure that other people really know your accomplishments. You've got to be really outward about it. It's
ironic, isn't it? That's sort of what I consider something that you know, I don't excel at, and yet that's a critical piece of what I'm doing now, because certainly for voters to have the confidence to vote for me, they're going to want to know that I've accomplished things and that I've done a good job at them, and that I am somebody that they can rely on. So
it's like you're forcing yourself to basically become a master of the skill.
Right. So yeah, it's just an opportunity to grow, I guess, and hopefully with this experience, I will have crossed another hurdle. But it does, I think, as you learn certain tools, as you watch different mentors and how they achieve it, and you learn certain comfortable tools for promoting yourself, but in a way that's kind of comfortable for you. It's so critical, and sometimes I think the best way to do it is to talk to someone and say, you know, how am I going to get across that, you know, I think my almost 10 years in the Navy was critical to developing my leadership without sounding in some way like I'm bragging or I'm egocentric, and listening to the feedback you get from people, and listening very critically to the exact words they use. And I have used when people say something, sometimes people will promote themselves, but it's so natural and it sounds so great and there's nothing awkward about it. And so I have taken that on board occasionally and mimicked their exact words if they're comfortable for me. And then when I say it, I think, oh, that was quite comfortable. You know, that was no problem. And so that's one of the tools.
Are there other strategies that you use to help make sure, you know, people are aware of your accomplishments, but in an authentic and natural way?
So I've gotten comfortable in just telling my story. And I think sometimes it's comfortable for me to tell my story in a way that gives a sense of my background and the people that I've relied on and the people that I admire, like my grandfather and my mother and my father, and how those people really inform the decisions I've made. And so that's certainly, you know, and the values that I have. And then, you know, sometimes just making sure to reinforce your background and with the accomplishments you've had. And it doesn't have to be in a way that's, I was the most wonderful person at X, Y, or Z that I've ever met, but simply saying, I was a helicopter pilot, and I was in the United States Navy, and there weren't many women who have done that. Or I was a federal prosecutor, and just sometimes it's just a matter of kind of talking about your resume a little bit.
Stating the facts.
Yes, stating the facts.
So how do you today give constructive criticism and feedback to others?
I find that often the best way to do that is what I think I call, and I think it's a term of art that a lot of people use, is the praise sandwich, because I think it's easy to criticize. And it's not that you don't think the people working for you are doing a fantastic job, but we're also busy and we're trying to get stuff done. So the stuff you list is often all the things they're doing wrong. And that's hard to hear all the time, and to constantly, every interaction you have with your boss, to be, you really need to work on A, B, and C. And I've certainly done that, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, I really have been doing that a little bit too much lately, because you're in a hurry and you're trying to get stuff. We really need to work harder on this. We need to get this done. We need to get more organized on this. And that's hard to hear, because it doesn't sound like, oh, you all know you're doing an absolutely fantastic job. Here's just some little key points we could tweak. It doesn't sound like that at all, because I'm not saying it like that. So I think a praise sandwich really helps everyone understand where the ground floor is. The ground floor is, this is a great organization. The team wouldn't be here if I didn't think that. Everyone is a critical piece to what we're doing, and I think it's wonderful. So to say, hey, I think we've really come a long way in the last 3 weeks. I think we've gotten, this plan up to speed in a very impressive way. I think we could do even better if we did A, B, and C, and that would really put us to our goals, and we're well on our way, and we're doing a great job. That sounds a lot better than rushing in and we really are failing at A, B, and C, and everybody needs to work harder, and then that's it. So I think that helps everybody, and it also, I think, helps remind me of just how far we've come and what a great job we really are doing. And those are just tweaks we can
it's appreciation, right? Like when you spend time to think about and recognize the things that you have accomplished, and that gratitude, it just helps continue to build on, and it helps pull everyone together towards a common goal, and remind you, right? Oh yeah,
exactly.
That you've done all of these amazing things as well, and hey, would you mind working on this, because it really is important. And then it's amazing how impactful this has been. You bringing this up, this has been the number one thing that transformed me as a leader, is learning this skill and not realizing that I was really coming across really mean a lot.
Well, because you know how much you value people. And so you kind of assume they just know that they're all doing great, so we can just focus on, where we need to work. But you're right.
This is so true. So that resonates with me a lot. So what's something that people maybe assume of you because of the position that you're in today, but that you'd like them to know about you?
Well, quite honestly, I'm not sure I need people to know this about me, but I think people assume that, oh, wow, she has these accomplishments, and she has these, she has her 4 kids, and she now is running for Congress, and what a nice package, what a nice little story. And I think what is something that's helpful for all of us to understand is just, it's wonderful. I'm really excited about this. I think it's great on so many levels for modeling for my kids, but it's not always easy. There have been a couple missed soccer practices as I'm moving forward on this plan. And, I'm still learning the ebbs and flows of campaign lifestyle, and making sure my kids are involved, and trying to make sure they're as much a part of this as they can be. But it is a work in progress, and I think that's going to be the way. It's certainly been the way that my life has run ever since I had my first child 11 years ago, and I think that will probably be the rest of my life. It's always just a work in progress, trying to figure out how to manage all of the things that you have going on in the best way possible. So I certainly, yeah, it's not necessary. I can tell everyone that when we were setting this up, I was madly clearing off this mantle right here of all the books.
That's our secret. No one's supposed to know that.
Right? I don't want people to know that. It's not something I want them to know. But certainly, I think it's only fair to.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to turn my camera like a quarter inch, you would see the same exact thing. So, this is definitely a facade.
Right. But I think it's important that we all know that everyone's struggling with the same type of issues.
Well, thank you so much. You have been hearing from Mikie Sherrill. I'm Shavon Lindley, Forbes contributor and CEO of Women Evolution. And so if you haven't had a chance to take a peek at Mikie's Forbes article live, click the link below. Check it out, make a comment, let us know what you think, and if you have any other additional questions for Mikie, because you're going to have an opportunity to ask them to her directly yourself. We're going to be doing a live Facebook interview coming up soon, so make sure you like Shavon Lindley, the page above, so that way you can be up to date on exactly when that article or when that interview is going to go live. And if you know any other rising female leader that you think should be spotlighted in my interview series, realize that there's an application process above for you to click on and make for yourself or for anybody else. So thanks so much, and I appreciate your time today, Mikie. This was amazing. Thank you. I know that
thanks so much for having me.
Super busy lady, but this was super fun, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.